Google's AI now controls where your ads show. It decides which channels, which audiences, which placements, and how much of your budget goes where. And most small businesses are feeding it garbage data and wondering why the results are garbage too. Here's the situation. 73% of advertisers are now running at least one Performance Max campaign. Google forcibly migrated Smart Shopping and local campaigns into PMax back in 2022. For most small businesses, this transition happened automatically, and most of them never changed how they set up their campaigns to account for what PMax actually needs to work. The result? Money goes in, conversions don't come out, and the business concludes that Google Ads stopped working. Google Ads didn't stop working. The game changed. Performance Max is not a traditional campaign. It's an AI system, and AI systems are only as good as the data you give them. Better inputs produce better outputs. Garbage in, garbage out. This video breaks down exactly how PMax works, why it fails for most small businesses, and precisely what to give it so it actually performs. Let's start with the most important thing to understand. What changed? The difference between old Google Ads and Performance Max in 2026 is not a feature update. It's a fundamentally different operating model. In the old approach, you chose your keywords, set your bids, selected your placements, and paid per click. You were in control. You decided who saw your ads, where, and when. In Performance Max, you give the AI three things: creative assets, audience signals, and conversion data. And Google's algorithm decides everything else. Which channels to use, which audiences to target, how to allocate budget across search, YouTube, display, Gmail, Discover, Maps, and shopping. All simultaneously, from one campaign. This is not a small change. This is the difference between driving a manual car and managing an autonomous vehicle. The car still gets to the destination, but you're no longer operating the gear shift. The critical implication for small business. Targeting, as you knew it, is effectively dead in PMax. You cannot manually select who sees your ads the way you could in a standard search campaign. What you can influence is the quality of the creative your ads use and the quality of the signals you give the AI about who your best customers are. In PMax, the advertiser who wins is the one with better creative and better audience signals, not the one with a bigger bid. So why does PMax fail for most small businesses? Not because the technology doesn't work, but because the conditions required for it to work aren't being met. 5 specific root causes. Root cause 1. Not enough conversion data. PMax requires a minimum of 30 to 60 conversions per month for the algorithm to optimize effectively. This comes from SMEC's analysis of over 4,000 campaigns. Below that threshold, the algorithm can't learn. It makes uninformed decisions with your budget while it figures things out. Root cause 2. Broken conversion tracking. If your conversion event fires on a page load instead of an actual form submission, PMax optimizes for garbage. It thinks page views are leads. It gets very good at generating page views. Root cause 3. Weak creative assets. PMax generates ad combinations automatically from the assets you provide. If you give it 2 images and 3 headlines, it has limited combinations to test. More creative variety equals better optimization. Root cause 4. No audience signals. Without signals telling the AI where to start, it begins from zero, spending your first weeks of budget on exploration rather than optimization. Root cause 5. Budget too small. Running PMax at $10 to $20 per day means the algorithm may never exit the learning phase. The minimum to actually learn is $50 per day. The recommended starting point is $100 to $150 per day for the first 4 to 6 weeks. Here's the system as it actually operates, and why understanding this loop changes how you set everything up. Performance Max runs a continuous learning cycle. You provide the inputs, creative assets, audience signals, and conversion data. The AI tests combinations across all Google channels simultaneously. It collects conversion data from what works. It adjusts its model. It allocates more budget toward the combinations and audiences generating conversions. And the cycle repeats, getting more efficient with each iteration. 3 inputs determine the quality of this entire loop. First, your assets. The quality and variety of your creative determines what combinations the AI can test. Second, your audience signals. These tell the algorithm where to start its search. Without them, it searches blindly. Third, your conversion data. This is what the AI is optimizing toward. If the conversion data is inaccurate, everything downstream is wrong. For e-commerce specifically, here's a critical data point. Feed-based ads account for 74 to 97% of PMax spend, according to SMEC's research. That means the quality of your product feed in Google Merchant Center is the single biggest lever for campaign performance in retail. The learning phase takes 6 to 8 weeks for stable results. The average ROAS across PMax campaigns is 4.1 times, according to WordStream LocaliQ 2026 data. Well-optimized campaigns with strong signals and sufficient budget regularly hit 6 times or higher. Step 1. Asset groups. This is where most small businesses make their first structural mistake. An asset group is a collection of creative assets targeting one specific customer segment or product category. Not one asset group for your entire business. One per segment. Here's the minimum asset requirement per group that gives the algorithm enough to work with. 5 headlines, 5 descriptions, 3 to 5 images in different formats, and at least 1 video. Ideally 2, 1 horizontal for YouTube and 1 vertical for YouTube Shorts and Discover. On vertical video, the data from AdsCong shows vertical formats achieve 40% lower CPM than horizontal on mobile placements. For a small business running a limited budget, that's a significant cost efficiency gain from one format change. The testing structure in PMax is different from standard campaigns. You cannot A/B test 2 PMax campaigns against each other. Doing so splits conversion data and prevents both from learning effectively. Instead, you test at the asset group level. Create 2 or 3 asset groups with different creative approaches, run them for 45 to 60 days with equal budget opportunity, and let performance data tell you which messaging framework wins. Search themes are the other critical input in this step. Provide 8 to 12 keyword themes to the algorithm, specific concepts you want it to prioritize in the search network. This gives PMax directional guidance without the rigid constraints of keyword match types. Step 2. Audience signals. This is the most underused lever in Performance Max, and the one that most directly determines how efficiently your budget is spent during the learning phase. First, let's be precise about what audience signals are and what they aren't. They are not targeting. You cannot force PMax to only show ads to these audiences. What you're doing is giving the algorithm a starting point, telling it, these are the types of people who convert for us. Begin here and expand from what you learn. The strongest signal you can provide is a customer match list, your existing customers, uploaded as a hashed email list. The AI uses this as its most direct reference point for finding similar new customers. If you have any kind of email list or CRM database, this should be your first audience signal. The second tier, website visitors tracked by your pixel and video viewers who watched at least 75% of your YouTube content. These are warm audiences with demonstrated intent signals. The third tier, in-market segments relevant to your industry and custom intent audiences built from people who have searched for your core keywords on Google in recent weeks. In 2026, Google added first-party audience exclusions. You can now exclude existing customers from PMax targeting. This forces the algorithm to focus budget on acquiring new customers rather than repeatedly converting people who were going to buy anyway. For any business with repeat purchase cycles, this is a critical setting. Step 3. Conversion tracking. And I want to be direct about this. If your conversion tracking is wrong, everything else in this video is irrelevant. PMax optimizes exactly toward the signal you tell it to optimize for. Get this wrong and the AI becomes very efficient at doing the wrong thing. 2 fatal mistakes that appear constantly in small business PMax accounts. Fatal mistake 1. Firing the conversion on a thank you page load instead of an actual form submission. The distinction matters because a page can load even when someone refreshes the tab or navigates back. PMax sees those as conversions. It optimizes for them. It gets excellent at generating traffic that triggers thank you page loads, many of which are not real leads. Fatal mistake 2. Using micro-conversions, page views, scroll depth, time on site as your primary conversion goal. These are useful secondary signals. They should never be the primary optimization target. PMax will optimize for what you prioritize. If you tell it to optimize for scrolls, it will find people who scroll. The right structure. Primary conversion action equals real business value, a purchase, a qualified form submission, a phone call that lasts more than 90 seconds. Secondary conversions equal engagement signals the algorithm can use as supporting data. 2 additional setups worth implementing. Enhanced conversions, which allows Google to match hashed customer data against conversion events for 15 to 20% better attribution accuracy. And offline conversion import, which is essential if you sell via phone calls or have a sales cycle where the conversion happens after the initial contact. For years, the biggest criticism of Performance Max was that it was a black box. You put money in and had no visibility into where it went or why. The 2025 updates changed this significantly. And if you're still treating PMax as uncontrollable, you're working with outdated information. 4 controls you now have that you didn't have before. Campaign-level negative keywords. This was added in 2025, and it's significant. You can now exclude specific search queries from triggering your PMax ads. Start with the obvious ones: free, cheap, what is, job-related searches, and competitor brand names if you're not deliberately targeting them. Research from SMEC shows this alone can reduce wasted spend by up to 15%. Channel Performance Reporting, launched in November 2025. You can now see exactly how your budget is distributed across search, YouTube, display, shopping, and other channels, and how each channel is performing on conversions and cost. Search themes. Providing 8 to 12 keyword themes gives you 30 to 40% more influence over where PMax allocates budget within the search network, according to data from ALM Corp. On budget management. Never increase your PMax budget by more than 20% at a time. Larger increases can reset the learning phase. Patience here compounds. A well-learned PMax campaign running at its optimal budget consistently outperforms a constantly adjusted one. 3 things. If you implement nothing else, implement these. Number 1. PMax is not a campaign. It's an AI system. Stop setting it up like a traditional Google Ads campaign. It optimizes exactly toward the signals you feed it. Better signals produce better results. Weak signals, broken tracking, or insufficient creative variety produce poor results, regardless of budget. Number 2. 3 inputs determine everything. Your creative assets, quality, and volume. Your audience signals. Start with customer match if you have any email list at all. And your conversion tracking. It must reflect actual business value, not proxy metrics. Miss any one of these and the algorithm is working with incomplete information from day one. Number 3. Patience is required by design. The learning phase takes 6 to 8 weeks. Do not judge PMax in week 2. Do not make major changes before accumulating 30 conversions. Do not increase budget by more than 20% at a time. The algorithm needs stability to learn. Constant interference is one of the most common reasons PMax underperforms for small businesses. You went from driving a manual car to managing an autonomous vehicle. Learn the new controls and give it the right inputs. One of the most practical things you can do before setting up your PMax asset groups is building your search themes list, the 8 to 12 keyword concepts you want the algorithm to prioritize in the search network. This requires knowing which terms have real search volume in your niche, what the competitive landscape looks like, and which keyword themes are worth the algorithm's attention versus which ones will generate low-quality traffic. Guessing on search themes is how you steer PMax in the wrong direction from the start. SEMrush is the tool we use for this. It gives you keyword volume, competitive data, and intent classification, so you can build search themes based on actual search data rather than intuition. The same keyword intelligence that drives SEO decisions now directly feeds your PMax setup. Link is in the description. And to help you build your PMax campaigns correctly from the first day, I've put together a free PMax setup checklist, a structured walkthrough covering assets, audience signals, conversion tracking, negative keywords, and budget. Every step you need to give the algorithm the right inputs before you spend your first dollar. Free download in the description. If your PMax campaigns are running right now without these inputs in place, pause them, fix the foundation, and restart. You'll spend less and convert more. This video is for educational purposes only. Google Ads performance varies based on industry, budget, competition, creative quality, and account history. This is not professional advertising advice. All statistics sourced from SMEC State of Performance Max 2025, WordStream LocaliQ 2026, and Google's official documentation.